When I was 20, I made the mistake of taking a back road I'd never driven before, late at night. I had spent the evening at a friend's house in another town. It was one of those last-minute visits where you lose track of time, talking, and suddenly realize it's almost midnight. My GPS suggested a shortcut back to the highway I usually took home. Instead of the normal 30-minute drive, it said the route would only take 20. At that hour, saving 10 minutes sounded great. The road started out normal enough. It was a 2-lane highway with the occasional house and streetlight. But after about 5 minutes, the streetlights disappeared and the houses got farther apart. Soon, it was just trees, tall woods on both sides of the road. My headlights were the only real light in front of me, and the beam barely reached beyond the next curve. I remember thinking it was darker than any road I'd driven before. There were no other cars, no passing headlights, no taillights in the distance, just the hum of my engine and the sound of tires rolling over the pavement. About halfway through the drive, the road straightened out for a long stretch. That's when my headlights caught something ahead. At first it looked like a signpost, or maybe a mailbox. But as I got closer, I realized it was a person. Someone was standing in the middle of the road. I instinctively slowed down. My first thought was that someone's car had broken down nearby. Maybe they needed help. But the closer I got, the stranger it felt. The man wasn't waving. He wasn't trying to flag me down. He wasn't even stepping out of the way. He was just standing there, perfectly still, facing my car. I slowed down to about 20 miles per hour as I approached him. My headlights illuminated more details now. He was wearing a dark jacket and jeans. His arms hung loosely at his sides. And he wasn't looking nervous or desperate. He looked calm, almost like he had been waiting there. A weird feeling started creeping up my spine. Normally, if someone's car breaks down and they stand in the road, they wave or try to get your attention. This guy just stood there, not moving, not signaling, just staring. When I got about 50 feet away, I noticed something else. Off to the right side of the road, partially hidden by trees, was another car. It was parked deep in the grass just beyond the shoulder. The headlights were off. The interior was dark, but I could make out shapes beside it. 2 more people, standing near the driver's side door. Watching my car, my stomach dropped instantly. The pieces came together too quickly. The man in the road, the car hidden in the trees, the 2 people standing beside it. My foot hovered over the brake. For a split second, I considered stopping to ask if they needed help. But something about the way all 3 of them were standing there felt wrong. Too quiet, too coordinated. Then the man in the road took a slow step forward, toward my car. That was enough. I slammed my foot on the gas. The engine roared as my car surged forward. At the last second, the man stepped out of the way. Not in a panic, not jumping back. He simply moved aside calmly as I sped past him. As I passed the parked car, my headlights briefly lit up the other 2 people. They weren't waving. They weren't calling out. They were just standing there, watching. The moment my car flew past them, I checked my rearview mirror. For a second, everything was still. Then the parked car's headlights flicked on. My chest tightened. The car pulled out onto the road behind me. I pressed the gas harder. My speed climbed past 60. The road twisted through the woods, and every curve made my heart pound harder. Behind me, the headlights were getting closer. Whoever was driving the other car was speeding too. I could feel panic starting to creep in. I had no idea how far it was to the highway. My phone had no signal. The woods around me were pitch black. and the only car on this road now was the one chasing me. I pushed my car as fast as I could, without losing control on the curves. Every time I looked in the mirror, the headlights behind me seemed a little closer. I started imagining what would happen if they caught up. 3 people, one of me. Then I saw something ahead. A faint glow in the distance. Streetlights. My heart jumped. The road ahead connected to a small intersection with a gas station and a diner. I slammed the gas pedal down and sped toward it. As soon as I reached the intersection, I pulled into the brightly lit gas station parking lot. There were a few cars parked outside, people sitting inside the diner. The moment I turned into the lot, the car behind me slowed down. It didn't pull in. It just rolled past the entrance. As it passed under the streetlight, I caught a glimpse of the driver, a man. And in the back seat, I saw the silhouette of someone else. Maybe the man who had been standing in the road. The car continued down the highway and disappeared. I stayed inside the gas station for almost 30 minutes before leaving. Eventually, I drove home, using the main highway instead of the shortcut. I never took that road again. But there's one thing about that night that still bothers me. When I passed the man standing in the road, he didn't look angry that I didn't stop. He didn't look surprised either. He just watched my car go by, almost like he already knew what would happen next. A few years ago, I worked the night shift at a warehouse about 40 minutes outside my town. The job itself wasn't bad, but the commute was long, and most of it was along a rural highway that cut through farmland and woods. During the day, it was fine. At night, it felt completely different. After midnight, the road was almost empty. You could drive 10 minutes without seeing another car. One night around 1 a.m., I clocked out and started the drive home like usual. It was late fall, so the air was cold, and there was a thin layer of fog hanging low over the fields. About 10 minutes into the drive, I noticed the headlights behind me. At first, I didn't think anything of it. Another car on the road wasn't exactly unusual. Still, it caught my attention because I hadn't seen any cars in the rearview mirror when I first pulled onto the highway. The headlights were far enough back that I couldn't make out what kind of car it was. Just 2 bright white points floating in the darkness behind me. The speed limit on that stretch of road was 55, but I was only going about 45. The highway had a lot of curves and no streetlights, so I usually took it slow at night. Most drivers would pass pretty quickly, but this car didn't. It stayed behind me. At first, I assumed the driver was just being cautious, like I was, but after about 10 minutes, the distance between us never changed. The headlights stayed about 5 or 6 car lengths behind me the entire time. Every time the road straightened out, I expected the car to move into the other lane and pass. It never did. Instead, it stayed directly behind me. Eventually, the road opened into a long straightaway. It was the perfect place to pass. Still nothing. That's when I started to feel uneasy. I tapped the gas a little and sped up to about 50. The headlights behind me sped up too. Same distance, same position. It started to feel deliberate. I told myself I was probably overthinking it. Maybe the driver was just tired or nervous about passing at night. But after another 10 minutes, the car was still there. By that point, I had been driving for almost half an hour. Same headlights, same distance, never attempting to pass. The tension in my chest kept building. Finally, I saw a gas station coming up ahead near a small intersection. It was the only one on that stretch of highway. The lights were bright enough that I decided to pull in and let the car go by. I slowed down and turned into the lot. The car behind me didn't follow. It drove past the entrance slowly. As it passed under the gas station lights, I finally got a clear look at it. It was an older sedan, dark colored, maybe black or dark blue, but that wasn't the part that stuck with me. Inside the car were two people. Both of them were wearing masks. Not medical masks, full face masks. The kind you'd see someone wear at a Halloween party. My stomach dropped. I watched the car disappear down the highway. For a moment, I just sat there, in the driver's seat, trying to process what I had just seen. Maybe they were coming from a party. Maybe it was nothing. Still, something about it didn't feel right. I stayed in the gas station parking lot for about 10 minutes, scrolling on my phone and trying to calm down. Eventually, I convinced myself it was probably harmless, so I got back on the road. For the first few minutes, everything was quiet. No headlights behind me, no cars coming from the opposite direction, just the empty highway stretching into darkness. Then I noticed something ahead. About half a mile up the road, there was a shape on the shoulder. As I got closer, I realized it was a car, parked on the side of the highway. The headlights were off. My stomach tightened immediately. It was the same sedan. I recognized the shape of it, even in the dark. It was just sitting there on the shoulder. Engine off, no lights. As I approached, I slowed down slightly, trying to see inside. The moment my headlights hit the car, the interior lit up briefly. I could see the two figures sitting inside. Both of them turned their heads toward me. The masks were still on. My chest tightened as I drove past them. For a second, I wondered if they were going to pull out behind me again. But when I checked my rearview mirror, the car stayed parked. No movement. I kept driving, trying to convince myself it was over. But my hands were gripping the steering wheel so tightly, my knuckles were white. About 3 minutes later, I checked my mirror again. Two headlights had appeared in the distance behind me. At first they were far away. Then they started getting closer. Fast. Within seconds, the car was right behind me again. Same headlights, same distance as before. My heart started pounding. They had been waiting there, waiting for me to pass. Now they were following me again. This time, they were closer than before. Close enough that I could see the outline of the car clearly. I didn't know what to do. The next town was still about 10 minutes away. There were no houses along that stretch of road, just fields and trees. I grabbed my phone and pretended to dial someone, hoping the driver would see the screen glowing. The car stayed behind me. Same distance, same speed. Finally, I saw the lights of a small diner up ahead near another intersection. The parking lot was full of cars. Without thinking, I turned sharply into it. The sedans slowed as it approached the entrance. For a moment, it looked like it might turn in two. Instead, it rolled slowly past. As it passed under the streetlight, I glanced over. Both people were still wearing the masks, and both of them were looking directly at me. Then the car kept going down the highway and disappeared into the darkness. I stayed inside that diner for almost an hour before finishing the drive home. I never saw that car again, but there's one detail about that night that still bothers me. When I passed them parked on the shoulder, their engine was off. No headlights, no brake lights, which means they couldn't have pulled out and caught up to me that quickly unless they had started driving the second I passed them. A couple years ago, I went to a concert in a city, about an hour away from where I live. It was one of those last-minute plans with friends. And by the time the show ended and everyone started heading home, it was already close to midnight. My friends lived closer to the venue, so I ended up driving back alone. The highway was still somewhat busy when I first got on it. Lots of people were probably leaving the same event or heading home from bars and restaurants. But after about 15 minutes, the traffic thinned out. Eventually, it was just a few scattered cars and long stretches of empty road. I set my cruise control to around 70 and settled in for the drive. That's when I noticed the truck. At first, it wasn't anything unusual. A large pickup pulled onto the highway behind me and gradually caught up. But instead of passing me, it got extremely close to my bumper. Closer than most people would ever drive at highway speed. I glanced in my rearview mirror. The truck was huge, one of those lifted pickups with oversized tires. Its headlights sat high enough that they shined directly into my back window, flooding the inside of my car with light. I figured the driver just wanted me to move over, so I switched into the right lane to let him pass. The truck moved into the right lane too, still directly behind me. I frowned and switched back into the left lane. The truck followed. Now it was starting to feel strange. Normally, if someone is tailgating you that aggressively, they just speed past the moment you give them space. This guy wasn't doing that. Instead, he stayed right behind me, maybe 2 car lengths back. I sped up slightly. The truck sped up. I slowed down a little. It slowed down too. My chest tightened. The highway around us was starting to empty out even more. Most of the other cars had taken exits into nearby towns. For the next 10 minutes, the truck stayed glued behind me. No attempt to pass, no attempt to back off, just sitting there. Then I decided to test something. I switched lanes again. Immediately, the truck switched lanes too. At that point, I knew it wasn't coincidence. My stomach started to twist. I didn't know if the driver was messing with me, road raging, or something worse. Then the truck turned on its high beams. The inside of my car lit up like someone had turned on a spotlight behind me. The glare was blinding in my rearview mirror. I adjusted the mirror downward, but the light still bounced off the windows. That's when I noticed something. Through the glare, I could see movement inside the truck, not just the driver. Someone else was sitting in the passenger seat, and the passenger was holding something up. At first I thought it was a drink, or maybe a phone. Then I realized the screen was glowing. They were holding a phone up toward my car, like they were recording me. My heart started pounding. I didn't know why anyone would be filming my car in the middle of the highway at midnight. That's when I decided I needed to get off the highway. The next exit was coming up about a mile ahead. Normally, I wouldn't have taken it. It wasn't the route home, but I didn't want to keep driving on an empty highway with that truck behind me. I signaled and took the exit ramp. The truck followed. That was the moment panic really hit. The ramp curved down into a quiet suburban area. A few scattered businesses and long residential streets. Almost no traffic. I turned right at the end of the ramp. The truck turned right too. My heart was racing now. I drove through 2 intersections. The truck stayed behind me. Then I made a sudden left turn onto a narrow side street. The truck turned left as well. At this point, it was obvious. They were following me. The street was dark and lined with houses. Most of the lights were off. I started making random turns, hoping to lose them. Right, left, another right. Every time I turned, the truck followed. The high beams were still on, blasting through my windows. My hands were sweating on the steering wheel. I grabbed my phone and opened the emergency dial screen just in case. But I hesitated to actually call. I didn't know what I would even say. Finally, I spotted something ahead. a brightly lit fast food restaurant at the corner of the next road. The parking lot had several cars and people inside. Without thinking, I pulled sharply into the lot. The truck slowed as it approached the entrance. For a second, I thought it might pull in too. Instead, it rolled slowly past. As it passed under the streetlight near the entrance, I finally got a clear look inside. The driver was a man in his 20s. The passenger still had the phone pointed toward my car, but now I could see the screen clearly. They weren't just recording, they were live streaming. There were comments scrolling across the screen. The truck idled for a moment at the edge of the lot. Both of them stared directly at me. Then the driver smirked. He hit the gas, and the truck roared down the road and disappeared. I stayed inside the restaurant for almost 40 minutes before leaving. Eventually, I finished the drive home without seeing them again. But the whole thing kept bothering me afterward. Not just the following, not just the filming. It was the way the passenger was holding the phone, angled perfectly to capture my car the entire time. Like this wasn't the first time they had done something like that.